Welcome to the Peak Performance Podcast, your guide to optimizing your life one health tip at a time. This podcast is designed to entertain and inform, not to provide medical or health advice. Always consult your doctor when it comes to your personal health or before you make any changes to your diet, exercise, or lifestyle.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Peak Performance Podcast. We got a special show for you lined up today. We are here with the plant father himself, Plant-Based Mafia, Danny.
How you doing?
Good to have you here.
Thank you.
So, Mafia, Plant Father, what is this all about? How did this start?
It started in LA. Short story, super long story, but we'll make it short. 2014, I was diagnosed with cardiovascular disease, just out of nowhere, totally accidental. Friend died, flew home from LA to New York, and I had this episode where I couldn't breathe properly, but it was because of a hiatal hernia, which came on from stress from a friend dying. And went to the hospital, and they're like, we don't see anything wrong with you. But I was 75 pounds heavier than where I am now. And they're like, just for, just to check, let's do this thing called an angiogram. It'll take 30 minutes, no big deal. And they're like, dude, you got 3 clogged arteries. They're like, you don't have heart chest pains. And I'm like, no, nothing. And they kind of figured out that I had these collateral arteries that were feeding the heart, which is really interesting. So if you get clogged arteries, it just creates these additional arteries, feeds the heart, and they just put in these stents. And I went back to LA, continuing my lifestyle of, partying and drinking and eating decadent foods and being a film producer, because that's what you do. I had a great life in LA. And then one day I just woke up, I said, I'm going down the wrong path. And I came across Dr. Esselstyn, and he was reversing heart disease with a plant-based diet. I'm like, this is cool, because I already spent 6 weeks at Hippocrates several years prior. A friend of mine was like, just go down there and, de-stress and hang out. And Hippocrates is here in West Palm Beach. It's a plant-based retreat, super cool place. You just want to go and heal disease and hang out and de-stress. And that's when I developed this podcast called Heart Disease Mafia. And at the time, I had a girlfriend who was in the kind of self-help space, and she was taking this very feminine approach, working with women. And she's like, you're masculine, you have to take more of a masculine approach. So gear what you're doing towards men who are 30 and over, out of shape, need to get in shape. And that's kind of where it all began. And it was cool, because then I started meeting with people and talking with them and saying, hey, read these books, get in shape. You're 45, you could barely walk, you can't breathe. Men should not be in this condition at this age. We should still be virile and strong, be able to protect, the herd. And from there, I started cooking and having these wonderful parties. And my girlfriend at the time was like, you have something special here that's not just about teaching people how to reverse heart disease. Your food's amazing. You could build a brand around this, but the Heart Disease Mafia name won't work. Change it to something else. And that's where I came up with Plant-Based Mafia. And then it kind of just took off from there. But the Mafia thing was kind of a twist on my Italian side. Ironically, being in LA, I got discriminated against a lot for being Italian. I could go into hours of stories about that, which is crazy. And I said, I'm going to take that word back and kind of spin it on its head and reclaim it and make it our own. And that's kind of what brought us here today.
Yeah, from a branding perspective, I absolutely love it. It's the juxtaposition of mafia being this hardened, very masculine term, and then the flip side of it is plant-based, which is usually associated with, lighter,
yes,
healthier, more of a left-wing approach. So I like the blending and the juxtaposition, and the brand is brilliant. But,
Thank you.
Your start actually seems a lot like Dave Asprey's. He started with the Bulletproof blog, the Bulletproof Executive, and you kind of started with the Heart Disease Mafia.
Yeah.
And then you kind of built a brand around that. It's very cool.
Yeah,
so
it's been cool.
You found us and the Longevity Center, Dr. K, myself. What are you looking to do now? Where are you at in your journey? What are your goals?
Well, I peeled off 75 pounds, and the stent thing happened over a decade ago. So like I never had a cardiac event, which I probably should have according to the doctors. And I've never had chest pains or anything. But it's not like 10 years later, I peeled off like that first 75, but I've just been like kind of stagnant at that like 285 to like 305 space. Still feeling healthy, but I just know that at some point I can't continue with this weight. Like the metabolic stuff is going to start to catch up. And last year it did, when my blood pressure started elevating. And then out of nowhere, my blood sugar started to elevate, things that I never had really an issue with. And all of a sudden they're here. So I'm like, there's got to be a bigger story here. You know, I can go weeks on the cleanest diet and drop like a pound. And I'm like, there's a metabolic issue. I need to get it fixed. But so I'm sitting in bed one day watching these TikTok videos, and there's this dude in LA or somewhere in California who's like, we're doing oil changes on the blood. So I've spoken to Dr. K about that guy. Everyone knows who he is. I'm like, this is super cool. I like the idea of this. And I'm like, let's call this doctor in California and let's make an appointment. And I'm like, wait, maybe there's someone in Florida that's doing this. And when I called their Google number, the person who I spoke to was like, you would have to ask him that question. I'm like, you don't know anything about what this guy does? It's literally like their Google number. I was shocked. So we started looking, and then like it took us to Miami first. And then finally it's like, I'm just gonna go into ChatGTP and just say, give me the doctor in South Florida, anywhere in South Florida that does EBOO therapy for a reasonable rate. And like, boom, the longevity center, Dr. K, went to because some of the prices were insane. And then went to your website, Google reviews looked amazing. And I'm like, all right, these are the people that we need to hook up with. And my wife and I made the appointments immediately. Like came in and I said, I think there's something here. I think we could have a great relationship with this crew and bring something to them. They could bring something to us, and let's kind of re-kick this healing journey. That's where we are.
Yeah, I like that. I like that. So you mentioned that they didn't know anything on the phone. When you called us, was whoever answered able to talk to you about EBOO?
Oh, yeah. Carly, she was amazing. And it wasn't just like about EBOO. Like, she just knew everything and was just so welcoming. And I appreciate that because at my restaurant, we make you feel like family. And that's kind of what I want to feel too. If you're going to help me, you know, get off of blood pressure medication, and you're going to help me clean out heavy metals from my body, and I'm going to trust you to like shoot me up with stuff and to take blood out of my body, filter it and put it back in. I want to know that I'm going to be like these people really care. And that is truly what I felt. And I don't hold back. If I just think that they're full of crap, I'm going to say, no, not interested. Because you're not the first. Like over the last few years, we started bouncing around to these like holistic healing spaces, and just like nobody took a blood panel, like nobody. So when I went to see you guys, Dr. K was like, all right, we need like 400 vials of blood. That's an exaggeration, but it was so cool to take an in-depth look, urine analysis, like all the different tests, and then to say, wow, this goes a lot deeper than like just even finding out like the candida issues and how that plays a role into the nutrition that I take in and the heavy metals and all that stuff. Nobody else that I went to did any of that. So this is the first time, and it feels, just the other day when I was in there was an older woman crying at the front desk. She's like, I saw your video. She's like, this is the first time I feel like someone has answers. So when you hear that, I think that's very powerful.
Yeah. Well, that hits on a couple of points that I want to talk a little bit about. I mean, part of our heart is two things that we want to, you know, positively, like I've always said that like my BHAG, my big, hairy, audacious goal is to positively impact the lives of over 1 million people, their health, their lives. And part of making that possible is, like you said, realistic pricing. So pricing that is, you know, in the ballpark for not just the ultra wealthy. But the other part of that is literally just making people feel at home. Because if you don't feel at home, if you don't feel heard, you're not going to do your treatments.
You won't feel safe.
You won't feel safe. Yeah. Yeah. Or if I don't make you feel at home, you're not going to let me take your blood and run it through an EBOO machine.
Right. Exactly what he said.
Yeah. So I think it's really important. So on your journey, is it okay if I talk publicly about some of your
we're
some of your
open
health
about
stuff?
it. Like, this is why I'm putting it out there. Like,
Yeah.
I don't care about anything.
Yeah.
Like, I don't care about it. Whatever. Just
Yeah.
tell people what it is. I'm just human. Can we curse on here? I don't want to.
Yeah,
though.
that's fine.
Yeah, I don't give a crap. Like, what is someone going to say? Oh, he's got Epstein-Barr. I don't care. So do you. And probably 10 other things. I don't care. I want to be vulnerable and expose and show people, like, hey, these things can be reversed or at least managed. Because so many of us are not managing these problems that we have.
I want to commend you for being open about your health and the journey. I mean, that's awesome. I think the biggest win, I saw you posted on Instagram the other day, was the C-reactive protein, which is a measure, a measure of basically inflammation. It's linked to cardiovascular risk, but it was close to a 14, I think.
There's different types of, like, different, whether it's Quest or wherever, that it was high.
It was high.
It was high, like way, way high.
And it was like a third of what it was previously.
Yeah, it dropped
in
ridiculous.
A few weeks.
Yeah, after
like
just
4 or 5 weeks.
Yeah, like 4 or 5 weeks.
Yeah. So that was 3 EBOO treatments.
Yeah, and that was powerful because, like, not turmeric wasn't able to, the wonder drug turmeric wasn't able to do that. And my plant-based diet alone wasn't able to do that. And then this EBOO therapy, where you guys were, like, pulling kegs of inflammation out of me, was just shocking.
Yeah.
I mean, you saw the pictures. It was insane.
Yeah. So, I mean, I think that's a very important point to highlight. Like, if you have other things going on that have been undiagnosed, Epstein-Barr, heavy metals, other things that are circulating in your system, other toxins, other pesticides, a plant-based diet, a clean lifestyle, exercising well, it's not going to fix it. It just won't.
It won't. It won't.
It's not enough.
No, it's not enough.
Yeah, and like I always said, like, I ate myself into this problem, and you really can't eat yourself out of it. You have to do these other things. Clean eating is certainly going to help. Like, if you have Epstein-Barr, stay away from the sugar, stay away from. So, of course, eating clean is good, but it's not going to get you to the optimal place that you want to be. You have to start doing some of these other interventions. It's vital to do it.
Right, like nutrition is just a puzzle piece, right? Like, just like you were saying earlier,
100%.
the full picture when you go to a practitioner's office isn't just treatment, right? It's your blood work, it's nutrition, it's heavy metals, it's all of these things. So
it's like the
totally
root cause healing. It's like people have cancer, but the cancer came from some sort of environmental or something, right? That probably could have been turned off years prior if you were able to identify it. But now that you have the cancer or the heart disease or whatever that is, you have to get to that root cause, and you got to fix that. And then the eating, right, the exercise, all those things are just a piece of the puzzle, like you said. But, like, I don't know, like, if I wasn't doing EBOO therapy, I don't think my inflammation would have dropped the way that it did.
Yeah.
Maybe doing a 2-year water fast, that might have helped. Or just 5 weeks of EBOO therapy.
Yeah.
And then once you guys tackle the heavy metal, which is going to be huge, the candida issue that I have, the hormonal issue, the testosterone that's like the level of, like, a 6-year-old girl. Like, I need to boost that up, right? And once we fix those things, the weight is going to start to come off rapidly.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to have to, like, what's happening here?
Yeah. I have actually very similar experience. So I was gaining weight uncontrollably. I was gaining like 5 pounds a week. And I was eating 2,000 calories a day. I was doing carnivore at the time. I was working out. I was doing everything right. I was sleeping way more than 8 hours because I was so fatigued. And nothing helped with the weight. And then I found Dr. K. He diagnosed me with the mercury poisoning. And literally without changing anything, actually my diet probably got worse during that time. I lost like 30 pounds just from chelation.
Amazing.
Literally just from pulling out the mercury. And we fixed my testosterone, and all the pieces just kind of fell into place.
Amazing.
Yeah.
So let me ask you this question, and probably for both of you. For someone like me, I've got 4 stents. I've got some of these metabolic issues. I clearly had plaque in my arteries, and I probably have some there now. People get nervous about doing these interventions, like, is it going to remove plaque? Because I hear that a lot. Like even just doing the vibration board, some people like, don't do that. It could shake the plaque off the arteries. So what would you tell someone who has potential plaque on their arteries, whether it be stable or unstable plaque? Is there any sort of a danger with chelation therapy? Like how would you calm someone's nerves who wants to do EBOO therapy? They want to detoxify from heavy metals, chelation therapy, and all of these other therapies. What would you tell someone who's got plaque buildup in their arteries?
Yeah, it's actually a pretty nuanced answer, and I wish Dr. K was here for this podcast because he could probably answer that a lot better. But
I'll ask him Friday too.
Yeah, there you go. Ask him when you see him. But I would say the order of operations is important.
Yeah,
like EBOO therapy, you're treating circulating blood. It's not going to cause the removal of plaque. There are very few contraindications. It's not actually even a treatment for heart disease per se.
Yeah.
Like you said, we're talking about root cause. We're talking about detoxifying. We're talking about increasing our antioxidant abilities, our immune system, things like that. Chelation is a little bit more of a nuanced answer, and I would have to leave that for Dr. K. He has a specific protocol on how he approaches these things. And that's actually a good point, though. If you're doing chelation, you have to make sure you have a very experienced doctor who knows what he's doing with dosage, with mixtures. There's different chelating agents. There's different ways to mix them. There's slight differences in terms of calcium and disodium and how you mix those and what ratios you use. And he does that on a per patient basis. So basically he will tweak it. Like someone like me, for example, he's not going to run the same protocol, the same intensity, the same dosage on someone like me as he would someone who's dealing with cardiovascular issues.
Well, I feel very comfortable too. Like when I talk with him, nothing has been rushed. It's like, let's figure this out first. Let me look at this blood work. Let's create a protocol, and then let's implement and execute the protocol kind of one step at a time. Where other places I've went to, they're like, let's just get you in and do it all in one day. I'm like, if you do I know enough that if you detox the body too fast, too quickly, you can make things worse. You can really make things worse. So, so far I've really appreciated the approach of the Longevity Center and how he's diagnosing me and what he thinks should come first and the steps that he's taking. So that really has been very comforting.
Yeah, the whole precision medicine thing is a big deal. So it's like from a business model perspective, yeah, you make more money if you get someone in and have them do $10,000 worth of stuff on day one and just do all the things because you made a bunch of money on one person.
Yeah.
But like, we're not trying to make a bunch of money. We're trying to have amazing health outcomes.
For sure.
And so if we can find out exactly what we're targeting and do it in a systematic and the healthiest way possible, then we're going to have better outcomes across the board. And then from that, in terms of business, like if we're able to get our patients amazing outcomes, the patients will flow.
Right,
the
money will
referrals,
come
the money will come.
regardless.
Yeah, you don't worry about that. You worry about treating the patient.
And it's very individualized, which is great. I mean, like one size doesn't fit all. Just like you were saying, you're not going to get the same dosaging and treatment as somebody with cardiac issues or whatever the case may be. So the individualized factor is great instead of having each patient come in and say, okay, we're going to do this, this, and this all in one day. Well, we don't know if we can do all of that on you or if that's safe or if that's really going to behoove your situation. So approaching it as that individualized special care for that person, I think makes a difference.
Makes a lot of sense. I mean, personally, like when I started this journey years ago, I would have like family members like, be careful at the gym. And I would just be like, honestly, if I drop dead trying to get healthy, I don't care. At least I was trying to do it, and, I'm still here. That has not happened. Thank God. And when I go to the gym, I lift heavy or I do heavy cardio. Even at my heaviest, the day before I went and got the angiogram 10 years ago, I had just cleared out my parents' garage, 6-7 hours of work from Sandy. So like, carrying 80-pound bags of sand on my shoulder for hours and hours and hours, no problem at all. And then the next day they're like, you have 3 clogged arteries. How are you not dead?
Yeah.
I'm like, I don't know. I have no, it probably maybe from the far infrared sauna, because I've owned one forever. And I was in that damn thing every single night.
The infrared,
Every
I
day.
love the infrared sauna.
Same.
I know you're a big sauna person.
Yeah, it's awesome. I mean, especially for cardiac health, right? But
Yeah.
it's just great. I love it. Super relaxing.
I think it played a role in the growing of those additional arteries.
The human body is so amazing, right? It's like, okay, we're running into a clog here. Let's just make a new one to
Yeah.
get oxygen to the heart. You know, it's crazy.
It wants to live. It's well, the cardiovascular story is so interesting too, because you could have someone, and I think I'm correct because I've listened to a lot of doctors talk about like the two different types of plaque, unstable and stable. And like the person with like 80% stable plaque buildup where it's like cement and you can't even chip it away with like a sledgehammer, that's safer than the person with 30% unstable plaque.
For sure.
So it's really interesting. Sometimes don't touch anything. That's plaque isn't going anywhere. Just so it's, the human body is pretty crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
So-
I think where you guys are going with this in 10 years, like, I think you're going to be able to heal people, right? Like you're stabilizing and bringing healing now. The technology in 10 years is going to be so exciting.
Yeah. We're actually very excited about some of the new treatments we have coming down the pipeline that we're testing out and building, and it's very cool stuff. So going forward, rumor has it you're doing some weigh-ins and going on a journey and making it public.
Yeah.
So when does that start? Has it started already?
We're behind the scenes, I'm doing that, but officially we start this Friday at the Longevity Center. We're going to do a weigh-in and then start doing the documentating like every single week, doing a weigh-in, posting it on Instagram and Facebook, and every treatment I get at the Longevity Center, doing like a rundown and a breakdown on what this treatment does. And then, the fun stuff is going over the blood work, because people get on the scale and that's great. But the new sexy is, are you sexy inside?
Yeah.
Right? Oh, you look great outside, but you're a mess on the inside. So I kind of foresee a future where when women are dating men, they're like, can I see your blood work?
100%.
And I've seen both sides of that spectrum. I've seen young people that are just shredded and look like the peak of physical health, and their blood work is horrendous.
Horrendous.
For sure.
And then I've seen people who are like older and overweight, maybe in their 60s, but their blood work's perfect.
Yeah.
They just carry a little extra weight.
Yeah. It's true.
Yeah, and that coupled with really how you feel
Yeah.
is the real, dictator. Like how do you feel? Like, does your blood work reflect how you feel?
And that's the weird thing too, which you guys know a lot about too, is sometimes your blood work looks great, but you still feel like crap. So that's when you got to do that deeper dive, and that's what you guys do.
Yeah.
So it's going to be fun to take, I hate the word journey, like 'cause everyone's on a journey. If there's a better word, a quest, a vision quest.
There you go.
I'm excited to take this vision quest with the Longevity Center because, as you know, I own Plant-Based Mafia. I'm the founder. I have two partners, my brother and our childhood friend, Brian. And we're franchising, and we want to grow them all over the country. And a big part of our kind of philanthropic, message, like we want to help people get healthy. We always tell people like, eat like 3 meals a week of Plant-Based Mafia, but you got 18 other meals during the week that you should be eating at home. Cooking, clean, like our restaurant is comfort food. You don't come there to get healthy, you come there to get happy. You eat clean and stay clean, do that at home, exercise, do your stuff. But we want to grow with people like you, with groups like you, that we can tell our customers, go. Like, people come into our restaurant now, and just the other day, there was a guy in there talking about his wife who's got this immune issue, and they've done this and they've done that. Took the car, like, dude, go and see Dr. K. Pulling out my phone, showing the videos, showing EBOO therapy, showing the inflammation. So we're not just like, and you're not paying us to do that. This is a synergistic relationship that we're both getting something out of it. But more importantly, I get to tell my customers, hey, if you have an issue, go see these people, okay? Because they're going to get to the root cause of it. And that's the type of healing. Like, we're so happy to be able to provide that kind of philanthropic service to our customers.
Yeah, it's true customer service.
Yeah.
Not just did you have a great meal?
Yeah.
But also like, hey, we care about you to the point that like we have other relationships that could help you in other places in your
Yeah, we
life.
love it. We talk health in our restaurant all the time as we're like giving them like fried chicken, right? That's plant-based. But we like, for us, we're like, that's okay. You can eat that big chicken sandwich slathered in whatever. What are you doing after the chicken sandwich and then for the rest of the week? You know, so it's, you should be able to go and eat that decadent meal and that piece of cake because it's delicious, right? People are foodies, but there's a whole long week. Or if you're eating the decadent cake every day and McDonald's every day, you're going to run into an issue. But enjoy some of that decadence, enjoy that food, but then also embrace that lifestyle of healing and optimal health. And you could enjoy both.
Yeah, it's the 80-20 rule.
Yeah, 100%.
If you're on it 80% of the time, 20% of the time, you can live your life.
Yep, 100%. And you guys probably know who Dr. Greger is. He's the plant-based doctor. So he always talks about how rapid the body wants to heal. You were just saying that. It desperately wants to heal. And it will do everything in its power to do that. Just give it the tools to heal, and it will do it.
Yeah, no, I love that. I do want to, because there are potentially some vegans and vegetarians watching this.
Yes.
I do want to impart a little bit of health coaching advice on the audience, if you'll indulge me.
Okay, go ahead.
As a plant-based person, it is extremely important to watch for nutrient deficiencies. Those nutrient deficiencies being macro and micro. Protein is the number one macro deficiency of vegans. Americans who eat a standard American diet are often not getting enough protein in during the day. Now, you add in removing the main sources that most Americans eat, and you're playing way behind the ball. Also, there's less bioavailability in vegan and plant-based proteins versus animal-based proteins. So focusing on getting the protein content, it's not impossible. It can be done very well, actually, as a plant-based person. It can be done. You know, some of the bodybuilders, the game changers or whatever?
Yeah, yep.
Yeah, like they do it. And I guarantee you they're hitting north of 200 grams of protein a day. But, you know, they're bodybuilders. Every single gram of everything is measured and prepared and
100%.
and planned out. So that's very important for people. And then when it comes to micronutrients, you're looking at iron, you know, anemia. It's just something you're not getting in large bioavailable, and that's key, quantities with a vegan or vegetarian-based diet. Creatine, that's another one. B vitamins, things like that.
Yeah.
So I just want to say, you know, I'm not necessarily a plant-based guy. I'm definitely not a carnivore guy. But from a holistic diet perspective, I think plant-based can be done very well, but I also think, just like anything, it could be done poorly. And so it's important to watch protein and your micronutrients to make sure you're tracking the way you should be.
Yeah, I agree 100%. I think some of the mistakes that people lean into is they become vegan, but they're not plant-based. They're kind of junk food vegans. Then they start to get sick because they're not getting the proper nutrients, and then they're having stomach issues. Their bacteria is off in their stomach, and then even when if they switch over to super clean plant-based, their bodies have a hard time breaking down those plants and extracting the nutrients. So it really is, I mean, just like if you're eating like the carnivore diet, there is a science to it, and you have to take certain supplements. Even the biggest carnivore advocates, they're always pushing the supplements. If you are on a clean plant-based diet, you have to take supplements. One of the biggest plant-based resorts in the world, the healing places, is Hippocrates Institute. They take systemic enzymes like at every single meal, which helps break down the fibers in the plants and move the nutrients around the body. So if you are 100% plant-based, you have to take into account nutritional deficiencies, and you have to look at what, like, I'm super iron deficient. I'm anemic because I don't eat meat, you know, but also because I have candida and I have stomach issues and I'm not absorbing the nutrients, you know, and because I have Epstein-Barr, I have a hard time eating certain plant-based foods too. I have to be very careful with. So I'm getting hit from every angle.
All the angles.
Yeah, which is like even with beans are high in iron. I can't really eat beans. they affect me really poorly. So like I have to find this perfect, recipe for success, but I have to take supplements.
Yeah.
Like right now, my counter is like, it's a full-time job. My phone, it's like every hour, ding, ding, ding. And I'm hoping eventually that ding will be every 2 hours. And then, and then I won't have to be taking as many supplements. But, we're probably looking at a solid journey or vision quest for at least 12 months, because I need to lose 125 pounds. That's certainly going to help big time. And I have to reset my gut, and I got to, reset my adrenals and get to an optimal place where now I could reset my diet. I could start introducing maybe a sourdough bread that's super clean. Maybe I could introduce some beans and things like that. But that first year is going to be difficult, and it's going to be tough. And if I don't do it right, it's going to take 2 years. So discipline is going to be very important.
Well, you got this, and we'll help you along the way.
Heck yeah.
So, Danny, anything else you want to share with the watchers of this podcast, the audience? Yeah. Podcast watchers?
Yeah. Well, you've been great. We've been talking on the phone a lot. You've been helping me with weightlifting, which is great, which is something that's super interesting about, because of my adrenal failure, or whatever you want to call it, I should not be doing heavy cardio. And prior to that, I was. And I actually feel a lot better now than just going to the gym and doing like an hour of really heavy weightlifting, like at like 85%, I think you said it was, and then 30 minutes in the sauna. That has really helped. So if someone who does have Epstein-Barr and they have these adrenal issues, be careful with the heavy cardio, because that was wiping me out. Because I was going in the morning and doing 35, 40 minutes of cardio on the treadmill, and like by 11 o'clock, I was just
Drained.
Now, drained. Now I feel much better, and this is just 2 weeks since we started this. We haven't really even started.
Yeah.
Like we're still getting tests and still figuring stuff out. So it's like I feel like Friday's our official start date.
There we go. Yeah.
So tune in, right, for the weigh-in.
Yeah. I see it all the time. People just push the cardio.
Yeah.
While they're also pushing a demanding home life, a demanding work life.
Yes.
The adrenals get shot, and then that cardio is just frying your nervous system.
Right.
There's no real benefit to it. There is a time and place for cardio. Cardiovascular health is very important, but each person's situation needs to be considered when you're figuring out, the optimal workout program for someone.
Yeah. I've always been like too much too fast. And as I'm getting wiser, I'm realizing like break things down in segments. I'm going to master the first segment, introduce the second one. And you're going to have a much better benefit. You're going to have more success. Even with the restaurant I'm building, it's like, we wanted to go all in at once. And now it's like, it's enjoyable to say no. Where before I felt like I always had to say yes to everything. Now I'm like, do I get to say no? Yes, that's awesome. No, F no.
I love that. Well, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for tuning in to the Peak Performance Podcast here with Danny with the Plant-Based Mafia, and Liz, who is our new, what are you?
RN?
RN?
Slash business.
Biz dev?
Yeah.
Yeah. Business
A little bit of
development.
everything.
She's hopefully the new me. Let's put it that way. Well, thank you for tuning in. We'll see you next time.
Thanks for tuning in to another episode of the Peak Performance Podcast, your #1 resource for today's top health hacks and facts. You can follow us on Instagram at the Peak Performance Pod or on X at PerformPod. You can also check out our website and weekly blogs at peakperformancepodcast.online. Again, thanks for watching, and don't forget to subscribe. We put out a new podcast every Thursday. The content of this podcast is provided for informational purposes only and is not intended for the purposes of diagnosing, treating, curing, or preventing any disease. Before using any products referenced on the podcast, consult with your healthcare provider. Carefully read all labels and heed all directions and cautions that accompany the product. Information found or received through the podcast should not be used in place of a consultation or advice from a healthcare provider. If you suspect you have a medical problem or should you have any healthcare questions, please promptly call or see your healthcare provider. This podcast, including Coach Kyle, Dr. K, and producers, disclaim responsibility for any possible adverse effects from the use of the information contained herein. Opinions of guests are their own, and this podcast does not endorse or accept responsibility for statements made by guests. This podcast does not make any representations or warranties about guest qualifications or credibility. This podcast may contain endorsements and advertisements for products or services. Individuals on this podcast may have a direct or indirect financial interest in products or services referred to herein.